My mother and my ex-husband showed up at the funeral of my precious father. I sarcastically said to them, "Nice of you to show up after all you've done such a thing," but they seemed not to mind it at all. This is my father's funeral. Their presence is a given. I couldn't stop laughing at my mother's comment. I came here for inheritance. Sorry, but there won't be any inheritance for you. My name is Lila, a 32-year-old office worker. I have been married to my husband Kevin for 2 years now. We met several times as business contacts and gradually got closer and started dating. However, I was hesitant to date him at first because he was 6 years younger than me. When I asked him, "Are you okay with an old lady like me being your girlfriend?" he looked straight into my eyes and said, "I don't care about age. I like you, Lila." I was taken aback by his unashamed confession and fell for him. From there, we steadily continued our relationship, and eventually he proposed, leading to our marriage. We immediately went to meet his parents. His parents were very kind people, and they accepted me. I quickly grew to like his cheerful and outgoing parents, who were much like my husband. Then, we went to my family home and introduced him to my parents. "He's quite young, isn't he?" "But he's very polite and seems like a nice guy." My parents quickly took a liking to him. He also had a positive opinion about my parents, saying, "Your parents are very kind." And so, without any issues, we got married. After our marriage, we both worked while sharing household chores, based on what each of us could do.
"Lila, your cooking is really good."
"Really, I'm glad. This is a recipe my mother taught me. No, actually, I studied it myself. My mother didn't cook much. I guess she was very particular about salads and oils, though."
"Oh, is that so? She's health conscious then."
"Well, she used to be a model."
"Really?"
"Oh, didn't I tell you? From around high school until she was 19, she worked as a teenage model. She got pregnant at 19 and married my father, and quit her modeling job once. But she went back there for about 10 years after I started elementary school."
"I didn't know. I thought she was very beautiful, but it makes sense if she was a model."
"Next time you should tell her directly. I think she would be really happy."
"All right, let's go to your family home on our next day off."
My husband cared a lot about my parents and often suggested visiting my family home. I am very grateful because I can see my parents regularly thanks to him. In this way, our married life was going very well. However, an unfortunate incident happened to us. My father had an unexpected accident and has been wheelchair-bound ever since. "Lila, can you come today? It's fine during the day because we have a caregiver, but it's hard at night because I'm alone." "Okay, I understand. I'll come after work." I was very worried about my father, and to be honest, my mother is not good at housework, so I was worried about leaving the caregiving to her. I told my husband that I would go to my family home after work to take care of my father. Then my husband Kevin unexpectedly offered to drive out and pick me up, saying that he would accompany me back to my parents' home. "Thank you. That's a big help."
"Don't mention it. If your parents are in trouble, we've got to help out."
At that moment, I saw him as a godsend. "Lila, it's so nice of you to come, and Kevin, thanks a lot for joining us. I feel bad for asking you to come all this way."
"Not at all. Please don't worry about it."
"Dad's asleep in his room now, but he'll probably need to use the bathroom soon." "I understand. I'll go check on him. Thank you, Mom."
"Is there anything I can help with, too?"
"Well, there are a few things I'd appreciate it if you'd come move. Ever since my husband became wheelchair-bound, there's no one here to lift heavy things."
"I see. Of course. You can count on me."
It seemed like Kevin was more than willing to help my mother with her request. I was glad he came with me. "Dad, you're awake."
"Lila, thank you for coming. I woke up because I heard your voices."
"I see. Do you need to go to the bathroom? I can help you get there."
I might take you up on that. I feel awful for putting you through this."
"What are you saying? Thanks to you, Dad, I was able to attend college. Now it's my turn to pay it forward."
"Thank you."
After caring for my father, Kevin and I went back to our home. When we arrived, Kevin had a suggestion.
How about we move in with your parents?
What?
Honestly, it must be tough for just your mom and dad to live alone in their current situation.
But are you okay with that, Kevin? It's not your parents, and you might feel uncomfortable.
Not at all. Your parents are genuinely kind, so I'm totally fine living with them.
Kevin, I was truly grateful for his proposal. Honestly, I was thinking the same. My mom and dad have a 15-year age gap. My dad was a business owner, and he met my mom at a high-class party. There, my dad was smitten at first sight with my mom's beauty, and they started dating. They decided to get married when they found out that my mom was pregnant. My mom was not good at housework, so my maternal grandmother used to come over to clean and cook. In fact, I remember my grandmother cooking when I was a child. My mother had a unique perspective that as long as she remained beautiful, she didn't have to do anything else. So she didn't do any housework at all. I learned to do housework and cook when I went to college and started living alone. But my mom is helpless. She can't take care of my dad on her own. So I wanted to be by my dad's side and support him if I could. There's another reason why I want to live with him.
What's that?
The truth is, I'm pregnant.
Really?
Yes.
Seriously? Am I going to be a father?
That's right.
In that case, it's all the more reason for us to live with your parents.
I agree. I'll contact my mom right away. When I told my mother that I was going to live with them, she agreed, saying, "That would be great help." Hence, my husband Kevin and I moved to my childhood home and began our life together there. This opportunity also allowed me to become a full-time homemaker. While caring for my father at home, I successfully proceeded with my pregnancy preparations. My mother would take me to the hospital when needed, and even though I couldn't cook, she would buy the food we ordered from the supermarket. This was really helpful to me, and it was a huge relief to live at home where I rarely had to be alone. Kevin also seemed to communicate well with both my parents. He would express concern for my father's health and would engage in enjoyable conversations with my mother. Seeing this, I truly felt blessed to be married to him. Kevin, could you accompany me for shopping? I heard that a supermarket a bit far from here has cheaper ingredients today, so I was thinking if we could take the car, my mother asked.
Of course, I'd be happy to. Just leave it to me,
Kevin replied. The relationship between my husband and mother is like that of a true mother and son, and they often go shopping together on weekends. As my pregnancy progressed and it became more difficult for me to go outside, I was truly grateful that Kevin and my mother were always willing to do the shopping. Time passed, and I successfully gave birth. It was a healthy baby boy. The family rejoiced at my safe delivery and commended me. Now that a boy was born, he could potentially take over my father's business in the future. I believed that our family life would become even more lively and fun. However, I encountered an unbelievable scene. This happened on the day I was about to take my son shopping. I wanted to buy baby supplies, but the store I was aiming for was far from home, so I decided to drive. Thinking it would be quicker to buy the items myself rather than having Kevin mistakenly purchase the wrong ones, I asked him to take care of my father while I went shopping. I got into the car and drove for about 10 minutes when I realized that I had forgotten to bring my wallet. I hurriedly turned around and drove home. As I was about to go to my room on the second floor to get my wallet, I heard a strange noise coming from my mother's room. Our house was designed such that my father, who was wheelchair-bound, lived on the second floor, while Kevin, my mother, and I had rooms on the second floor. I didn't see Kevin or my mother in the living room on the first floor. I had a terrible feeling. Quietly, I approached my mother's room. I could hear a creaking noise and heavy breathing. I can hear this loud and clear. Quickly, I set my phone to video recording mode and flung open the door. "What the hell are you doing?" I asked. To my shock, both my husband and mother were naked. In other words, they were having an affair. They quickly began to dress. "What is this all about? You're having an affair, aren't you? I questioned them, and both of them were unapologetic. Well, yes, but there's nothing we can do about it. Kevin says he prefers me, my mother said.
I'm sorry, but I find your mother more attractive,
Kevin confessed. Yeah. It seems that Kevin liked older women, and even when he started dating me, he didn't mind the age gap. Do you think you can get away with this? I asked. Well, whether we're forgiven or not doesn't matter to us, my mother answered.
Well, I guess we're moving out and living together, just the two of us,
Kevin said. So you're saying we're getting a divorce? I asked.
Yeah, of course,
he replied. All right then, I'll get the divorce papers ready right away. To my own surprise, I found myself carrying on the conversation with an unexpected calmness. Perhaps it was because I knew I needed to stay strong for my father, who needed care, and for our newborn son. I suppose you're going to divorce Dad. I'll get your divorce papers ready too, I said. Then my mother made a shocking statement. I'm not getting a divorce. What? I'm not divorcing your father, but I am moving out of this house. Wait, enough with the jokes, I replied, taken aback. I'm not joking. I won't leave him until I've gotten his assets, and that's until he passes away. Shockingly, my mother refused to divorce my father just to inherit his assets. Indeed, regardless of the steps taken, being married means the spouse is entitled to a share of the deceased's estate. Just how low can you go? I said, glaring at my mother with clenched fists. I'm just choosing the more beneficial path. I'll squeeze out every last penny I can get, whether from the old man or otherwise, and then I'll be with a young and wonderful man. I was so astounded that it went beyond anger. Kevin, I'll be divorcing you no matter what, I announced.
Sure, go ahead, but I might refuse to divorce depending on the conditions,
he retorted. Ugh, what conditions? I grumbled.
Mother-in-law, or rather, Anna, you accept that she's refusing to divorce father-in-law, 'cause you're going to pull some strings, aren't you? So I want you to maintain the status quo between Anna and father-in-law instead of divorcing me, he said.
Don't be ridiculous. There's no way I can agree to such a condition.
Then I won't divorce either, and I won't pay child support.
What?
Well, make your choice.
Kevin and my mother wore smug expressions. I had to inform my father about this at once. I can't make that decision without considering Dad's feelings. I protested and ran downstairs. My father seemed to be awake. He must have heard the conversation.
Don't worry about me. Get a divorce immediately, he said.
But if I do, you and Mom won't be able to get a divorce, I explained.
Don't worry about me. Just leave that man,
he insisted, looking me straight in the eye. Perhaps my father had a strategy of his own. I decided to follow his advice and agreed to Kevin's terms for the divorce. Kevin and my mother left the house together, laughing uproariously and saying, "Let us know when he's dead." I was seething with rage and felt as if I would lose my mind. But the hardest hit was my father. I'm sorry, Dad. Kevin really messed up, I said.
What? Don't worry about that. They'll surely get a taste of hell soon.
I had no idea what my father was thinking at that time, but after his explanation, I quickly understood. Indeed, this way we could show hell to them. From then on, I decided to live my life without paying any heed to those two. I hired a daytime caregiver, and I returned to my job as an office worker. My son was growing up healthily, and I was getting better at taking care of my father. My father seemed happy to be able to play with his grandson. I hoped my son would grow up to be like my father. Living this way, 3 years passed in a flash. A little while back, my father's health started deteriorating, and he was admitted to the hospital. And from then on, his condition didn't improve, and he passed away. I was prepared for it, so I was calmer than I thought. I immediately started arranging the funeral. My father was a well-respected man, and a lot of people attended his funeral. But among them, I ran into the last people I wanted to see. "Long time no see. I hope you've been well,"
We came as we promised.
It was none other than my mother Anna and my ex-husband Kevin. Why are you here? We came to fulfill a promise. My mother and ex-husband had shown up at my dear father's funeral. How dare you show up here after you did such a thing? Lila, most men and women are drawn together by instinct, so it's inevitable. Rational thinking doesn't apply to those of us who are attracted to each other. They seem not to mind it at all. If that's the case, why are you here at my father's funeral? Why don't you just spend time together? Well, it's my husband's funeral. It's only natural to attend. Plus, as I said earlier, I have a promise to fulfill. Kevin and I came to claim the inheritance. So tell me how much money I'm going to get. I couldn't stop laughing at her comment. Unfortunately, you won't receive any inheritance.
What? What are you talking about? Anna should get a portion of the inheritance.
I'm sorry, but my mom and dad are already divorced. I never agreed to any divorce. Have you forgotten that you once pushed a divorce paper on my dad? My dad saved it for a time like this. So after you left the house, I submitted the divorce paper. You're now just a stranger to my father, which means you're not eligible for inheritance. Upon hearing this, my mother and ex-husband turned pale. No way, that can't be true. Do you understand the situation now? Could you please leave? Many people who adored my father were gathered around us. Everyone was staring daggers at the two who had betrayed and hurt my father. Realizing the situation, they hastily left the venue. I heard that the two had been living a luxurious lifestyle that didn't match Kevin's income. It seemed like they had even spent all of my mother's savings and started incurring debt, saying they were at their limit. That's when they learned about my father's death. They thought they could use the inheritance to repay their debts, but their plans fell through as they didn't receive anything. Now, no one knows where they are. But honestly, I don't care. On the other hand, I had started working at my father's company a few years ago, and I had taken over as the president before his death. Right now, I'm nurturing my son while protecting my father's company as its president. One day, I hope my son will take over this company, but if he finds something else he wants to do, I am committed to supporting his dreams wholeheartedly. For now, while he is still small and adorable, I want to be there to witness his growth closely.